who's in Parliament, in the Senate, but not represented.
You're a cat too, Jacqui.
Not represented by one of the major parties.
Oh, woof. Okay. First of all, we've always had climate change. It's been much, much hotter and much, much colder. And even 110,000 years ago, it was 4 degrees hotter. Charging our pensioners and our businesses and our families more for power.
On that one, Jacqui.
Yeah,
so
they were always
let
on
them
me.
go at that one rather than have the argument.
Okay, so charging our businesses and our pensioners, especially our aged pensioners, and our families more for power is not going to stop world climate change. And I can tell you now, had I have stuck with a deal that Clive Palmer was trying to make, we would have lost 10,000 jobs in Tasmania only about 2 years ago with the RET if we had not got rid of what was going on down there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this: I do not agree with the Paris climate change. And I'll tell you what, when everybody else wants to come on base, that's every country in the world, wherever they are, and they want to pay some sort of carbon tax, that's what it is, a carbon tax basically. Let's say it for what it is. Okay, when they want to even the playing field, then you know what, maybe we can step on board. But until then, we're kidding ourselves. But I'll tell you what you can do. We know we're not going to stop world climate change, so let's have some vision here and prepare for it. Let's prepare for this. Why aren't we looking at an involuntary national service and boosting up our SES, boosting up our frontline services? Why aren't we looking at that sort of stuff? And the other thing is, I just want to say one more thing. We have 30% of the world's uranium in this country. You tell me why we're not looking at nuclear power instead of what we've done with our utilities and our assets in this country and sold them to overseas big businesses where they don't pay their bloody fair share of tax and where they're usually donors to the bloody Liberal Party.
Okay,
so
you tell me. Very brief response because we've got another question to go to.
Jacqui, with all due respect, I 100% agree in the sense that we need to be thinking about the most vulnerable members of our society, pensioners, etc. We shouldn't be looking at situations where people are paying a hell of a lot more. But that is not the same as thinking about doing things better for the earth. And how are you going to stop it? It's always been much harder, much colder. It's about the fact that
you're never going to stop it. It's happening. Get used to it. Prepare for it. Get ready.
We've got
Get off the blocks.
Question about the debates that are going on at the moment. They've already been partly alluded to. It's Aaron Fernandez.
Families can't turn on the air conditioning on a hot day. Businesses have to close and send their workers home.
Let's just hear, Yassmin is saying that's incorrect. Let's just hear her point.
There are multiple examples around the world of countries operating on renewables. So the fact that the argument that the technology isn't there has been proven wrong. That's point number one. Point number two is simply because things have worked in the past, it doesn't mean we can't think, oh, we have new technology available, how can we use that to make things better? Just like, for example, when the car came and everyone was using horse and buggies, we didn't think, oh, well, our systems aren't set up for cars, we'll continue using horse and buggies because that's the way it's always been. No, we changed roads so that we could use cars, right? And yes. The problem that we have is that our grid is 40 years old plus. It is aging, it is inefficient. There are multiple coal-fired power stations that have, if you've designed stuff, right, you would know you design things for a certain number of years and we're using them past their design limit at the moment. So rather than thinking, let's keep the coal-fired stations on past their use-by date, how about what new technology is available and how do we use that?
I don't disagree with anything that you said, Yassmin, but that transition takes time. And in the meantime...
it also takes government to back it. And it also takes people to believe in it, right? And we're not seeing that.
Okay, James, you get to respond to that briefly.
So the proposed cuts to New Start, Youth Allowance, Centrelink, the Energy Supplement and the pension have been justified by the Turnbull government as a necessary sacrifice to allow lower income Australians the chance to access childcare. However, many lower income families rely heavily on these services in their everyday lives. My question to the parliamentarians is this: what will you and your parties do to support the people who are the most dependent and who will now be worse off than before? How can we support families off the backs of Australia's most disadvantaged?
Jacqui Lambie, I will start with you.
Yep, I'll tell you what they can go and do with their omnibus. They can stick it where it fits and with a cat with it. All right? This is very cheeky about rolling all this into one because they're never going to get it through. And I can tell you now...
So we're talking now about the Treasurer's giant bill that contains all those cuts.
Yeah. But all those cuts have been taken from one hand, giving to another in that omnibus.
But we'll also, I mean, and in a way, the kind of carrot in this omnibus bill is extra money for childcare.
Yeah, no, there's no carrot because you're taking the head of the carrot here and you're giving it over to here. That's bullshit, and that's why it's never going to work. You can't do that. You're just moving it from one hand to the other. I tell you what, how about you get the Liberal Party and the LNP to go after their big political donors out there to pay their taxes and all the rest instead of coming after the most vulnerable in society, because by making you people poorer is not going to help the situation. All they're doing is making the divide greater between the richer and the poorer, and that's what they're doing. And by the way, the welfare card's on its way too, so they're about to bitch slap like you've got no idea. I can assure you right now. So get ready because it's coming.
Jacqui, you're obviously talking to the other crossbenchers. Do you think the omnibus bill has any chance of getting through at all?
Well, apparently One Nation will be voting for it, so, you know, which bothers me because they're supposed to be for those that are less fortunate. Well, they're not, that's actually starting to unravel for them very, very quickly. They're not there for the underdog, I can tell you now. And it's going to come down to NXT, and I'm just hoping that how I've spoken to Nick and explained it, I've come through that system. I was on welfare. I was on a disability support pension for 10 years trying to support 2 kids. I've been at work where I've had to pay those bloody childcare expenses where they've cost me three quarters of my wage as a young private in the army. So one of our wages was actually nearly all going on childcare. So there's no easy answer, but you could certainly lower the childcare costs, but we can do this a much better way if those big companies start paying their damn tax. And that's what needs to be done.
Okay.
And that goes for Google and Facebook and whatever else is out there. Start taxing. Don't tell me it's too difficult. It seems to be it's very easy to come take money off you people that are already living on or below the poverty line, but it's too bloody hard to go after their big donors.
All right, let's hear from James Patterson in the Senate.
Dirty, filthy deals, I'll be honest. And you know what? It's funny what the Liberal Party in the federal seat up there in federal parliament will do to keep One Nation on side. Honestly, you'd be... Oh, it just blows me away. But I'll tell you what. So what they've done in Western Australia is they've taken the Nationals, so they've taken the puppy dog that they used to have has gone back to the pound, and they actually think they're getting something better. But I'll tell you what, when that bites them, come back and see me.
There's some hectic analogies happening today.
Puppy dogs, cats. Can I just ask you this? I mean, you and Pauline Hanson do have certain things in common, certain views in common. Would you ever consider joining One Nation rather than have the steamroller just run you over at some point?
Who's going to run me over?
Well, I mean, if that were a possibility. Just a question. If you could just answer that particular question, would you ever consider joining One Nation to be part of a bigger, more powerful entity with similar views?
I was a part of a bigger power entity once before. That didn't work too well for me and others. That'd be the first thing. And, you know, you've got to be able to sustain that power and that resilience and that resistance. And quite frankly, I don't think One Nation has it.
You know, the problem, right, is that we're talking about One Nation as if there's some sort of party that has platforms that aren't deeply xenophobic, that aren't deeply divisive, that aren't trying to kick people like me out of this country simply for being Muslim, right? We're talking about One Nation and the fact that Liberals in WA want to preference One Nation, which clearly says to me, we actually don't care about any of the values we talk about caring, right? All we want to do is stay in power, right? We love power so much that we are willing to send our preferences to a party that, like, have you gone to the website and looked at their economic policy? It is unbelievable. There is nothing there. There is literally nothing there that makes economic sense, right? And so the fact that we're discussing, I'm sorry.
I think everybody's picking up on that now. I think people are on to them.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do is just move on to the next question.
Sorry. It blows my mind. One Nation wants to ban Muslims. They're talking about halal.
You'll be able to talk about that subject. Now, you're watching Q&A live across Australia.
Wow, wow, wow. Those two ladies got into it. Crikey. That's as bad as my Australian accent's going to get, folks. I mean, that was just fiery fireworks going on over there between Yassmin and Jacqui. Now, I will have to say this. In regards to Yassmin saying that she was about a year and a half old when she came from Sudan to Australia, you know, as a refugee, that was probably the greatest thing, and she'd probably admit this, the greatest thing that could ever happen to her and her family, that she was able to grow and thrive and be a part of a Western democratic society and be able to practice the religion of Islam, which is what she wants to do. And that's perfectly fine. I guess the fact of the matter here is that Jacqui is saying is that she probably feels, and I don't know everything about Yassmin, but she may want to maybe imply that some parts of Sharia law ought to be adhered to. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. In Islam, and she was correct in saying this thing, she brought this thing up herself, Yassmin, by basically saying that in Islam, the thing is that you follow the laws of the land in which you live in.
Are you still interested in a solar-powered generator? Because pay special attention, because I'm going to do something that until recently we've never done. I'm going to offer this solar generator.
And Muslims talk about this and they bring this up all the time. But then when the stuff hits the fan, everybody claims what? Minority rights. My minority rights are being exploited. I don't have any minority rights. Everybody's not letting me do what I want to do. So what happened to the fact that you just said that you're supposed to follow the laws of the land in which you live in and adhere to those? Why do you need another set of laws to follow? You want to follow those? Follow those in your own home. Follow those in terms of your, at the mosque. Follow them, and, you can pass those down to your children and teach them those things. But if there's some type of a difference between the Sharia law and the law of the land, you've got to follow the law of the land. Unless, of course, for example, people always say, yeah, but that's what happens if they make a law that you can't have kosher food or halal food and you got to eat, food that you're not supposed to. No one's going to do that. Straw man that stuff so often. And then she talked about the fact that, the Donald Trump issue with the ban of people coming from Sudan for 3 months. I thought it was for 6 months, actually, because it was same exact, whatever you want to call it. It was never called a Muslim ban during the Obama monarchy. Oh, no. I'd like to know where Yassmin was at that time when Obama had implemented, his State Department had implemented the same exact thing, that they were going to put a hold on visas being given to people from those 7 countries, predominantly, Muslim countries. Trump comes into office, exact same thing. All of a sudden now they call it the Muslim ban, and he's calling it a Muslim ban. And the next thing you know is we've got protests, we've got demonstrations, we've got riots. People are not allowing people to go into airports, they're marching in the street, they're preventing traffic flows, causing all types of commotion, going to downtown New York, protesting in front of the Trump Tower. None of this happened during the Obama monarchy, none of it. Pretty hypocritical. And this wasn't just from the people who were advocating, that the Muslim rights were being abrogated or that Muslims from these countries, couldn't come. Donald Trump has every freaking right. Every president, prime minister, head of state, no matter where they're at, has a right to say, you know what? If they think that there's a security threat, a national security threat, what are we going to do? We're going to wait to vet these people based on what those governments are telling us. And then Yassmin brought up the point and said, all these, security people, these security departments, these security systems, security companies, security within governments all over the world are saying that this really hinders everything. It doesn't enhance anything at all. Right. So me, as an American, my president is supposed to listen to the security advice of people outside this country. Hell, folks, we're not even getting the right security advice from inside this country because of the deep state. And you want us to rely on the security advice of people outside this country on how to make us safe over here? You must be effing nuts. Absolutely. Now, Jacqui, to her part, I guess if she wants to argue the fact about Sharia law, she probably needs to go ahead and study it a little bit more or whatever, but I understand exactly what she's thinking about. There should absolutely be no Sharia law in any Western country that is not a Muslim majority country. Now, Muslim majority country, there's over 50 of them. Listen, if they have Sharia in there, things, and their Sharia law differs from one place to another. There's Sharia law in Saudi Arabia, which you probably know, women are not allowed to drive a car.
Stop being so nice to women. Nice will never equal turned on or attracted to you. I know you want women to be wildly attracted to you, to approach you first, to win at the dating game and beat out all the other jerks around. But it's not going to happen if you keep being so darn nice. What if I told you I have a formula that stops you from being too nice and has you being just the right amount of bad? A formula that you can use to win over any woman anywhere in a matter of minutes, no matter how attractive or sought after she is. We women, due to our biological wiring, cannot resist a man who uses this formula on us, consciously or even by accident. This amazing formula I'm talking about.
Well, I'd like to ask, what type of cars were there during the Bedouin times, few thousand, 1,400 years ago? How many BMWs and Mercedes and Lexuses and Acuras and Hondas, Bentleys? How many were they during the time, of the Bedouin Arabs and during the time when Islam was spreading across Saudi Arabia? How many were there during Christianity? They were during Jesus' time, during Moses' time. But all of a sudden now that's Sharia law? God said that? God told Muslims that, or Saudi Arabia, it's in the Holy Scripture that women can't drive? The man-made laws, and that's what happens, folks. The countries, they become misogynist. It's culture. Culture is dictated. And in these Muslim countries, as in a lot of Western democracies, who dictates the culture? Who's dictating the laws? Who's out there in terms of places of power? Men. Yes, men. Chauvinistic men. That's right. Misogynistic men. We're the ones that are making, well, not me, not you guys, but, the people that we elect. And so then there's culture that drives this as well. And some of it, yes, you could consider to be backward culture because they don't give women equal rights, although the law and everything says that they should have it. But that's culture. And to change culture means you've got to start, young. But the problem is, who are you going to start with? Because when they teach the young people, they're teaching the old stuff to the young people, and the young people then learn it and continue it on. So that's what's happening. But like I reiterate again, the shouting match, between these two, that was quite forceful. And, Jacqui's got to basically, I think, stay, go to those areas where she thinks the Sharia law, if she thinks it's being applied or people are saying that this is the Sharia law that needs to be enacted in Australia or other places, that's where she needs to basically say no. And a quick answer to that is absolutely no Sharia law of any kind, shape, or form, no Sharia councils, no Sharia. Now, if two people individually or a group of people religiously, Muslims, they want to go to somebody themselves, a Muslim lawyer, and within the confines of that, come to an agreement and say, we want to deal with this based on Muslim law, then if they both consent to that, I don't see anything wrong with it. But you're not imposing that now on society. And that shouldn't be an obligatory thing that you have to do. If they both feel that they can get that thing done, like, bartering or some type of, let's say, husband-wife situation, custody or whatever, if they both agree that they want to allow Sharia law to handle it, they can do it, I think, privately within that thing. I don't think I would have a problem with that. But they adhere to it, they sign off on it, and they say, this is what we're going to be doing. But if one of those people say, no, we're not doing it this way, I want to go to an Australian court, I want to have adjudicated by an Australian judge, I want to go through the laws of the land, then absolutely. and by one party saying, no, 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 you can't. This is a religious matter. It's got to be determined through Sharia law in Australia or a European Western country. I don't agree with that at all. And I think that's what Jacqui is basically talking about. And I don't even think that Yassmin is talking about that. I don't think so. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. And if you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Check out our other video links above and below. Put your comments down below. We'd love for you to share your thoughts. Whose side are you on? What do you think about Sharia law? My final thought, as always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and